Yeah, you look at Sarah Palin, a real hero to conservatives like yourself across this country, a real warrior who's just stood up at every turn, whether it be Democrat, Republican, the media, whoever she has to go against, does not back down, runs toward the problems instead of away from them. And here you're a young guy running for office, and she says that your candidacy inspires her. So what does that mean to you when you hear that from such a prominent figure like Palin?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's a little surreal being my position. And I was just telling someone the other day that works for me, we were riding down South Louisiana. I said, can you believe that Sarah Palin has endorsed me? Because it's just a wild thought to think someone who's been on the front lines, who has been a hero of mine, who I've watched fight for the same things that I believe in, and now to know that I'm partnering with her in some way is incredible. I mean, it really is, and it's motivating, and it inspires me, and it makes me want to fight more. You got to have good folks to stand with you, and I can't think of anybody better to stand with than Governor Palin.
You're a leader within your church. How will that help you along the way, not only during this campaign, but once you're in D.C.?
I tell folks, this is a good question. I tell folks this, that my faith does not really play a part in my campaign, and it is the whole crux of the matter for me. I mean, my faith in God is what this is all about, and the reason why, it goes back to what I said earlier. Without God, then I don't have a case to make for human freedom, because in the absence of God, man becomes the determiner of all things, including the value of your life. And it's not just any man that gets to determine it, it's the one with the biggest stick. Well, that happens to be our federal government, because they have missiles, tanks, and weapons of mass destruction. So I stand in the vein of reason with Thomas Jefferson when he wrote the Declaration of Independence that I quoted earlier. So my faith and what I've learned in church, and what I've taught in church, and what I've preached from the pulpit is this same message. I don't think we separate church from the rest of our life. God is the foundation of freedom. I'll have that debate with anybody, anytime, anywhere.
Well, that is great to hear, and you can see why Governor Palin has said these things about you. You really are an inspiring candidate, Zach. Can you tell people how they can learn more about your campaign and maybe help you out along the way as you make this run for Congress in Louisiana's 5th District?
Yeah, if you're in Louisiana, in the 5th District, we'd love for you to just get involved, help us door knock, help us put out signs, help us make phone calls. And if you're not, you can always help by donating to our campaign at ZachDasher.com. That's ZACH, Dasher, DASHER, like the reindeer.com. ZachDasher.com. Give us a shout out. Look us up on Facebook or Twitter as well.
All right, don't let his clean-shaven look fool you, folks. He really is the nephew of Phil Robertson, the Duck Dynasty gang, and endorsed by Governor Sarah Palin. Zach Dasher, we wish you the best in Louisiana, and we hope to talk to you again once elected.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me tonight.
That website for the Dasher campaign, once again, ZachDasher.com. That's ZachDasher.com. Well, Governor Palin is a hockey mom, and now she's supporting a man very familiar with the ice rink himself. Tom Emmer is running for Congress in Minnesota's 6th District, and this past week Palin endorsed his run with a glowing post online. The governor wrote, quote, "Career politicians in D.C. better start investing in fight straps before Tom Emmer gets there. The former hockey player, coach, and current hockey dad won't have any patience for their gross misconduct. Tom is a proven conservative whose private sector and family experience have instilled the principles of hard work, free markets, and less government regulation. A fourth-generation Minnesotan, Tom runs the lumber business his great-grandfather founded. As a husband and a father of 7, Tom knows a thing or two about leadership. He's pro-life, a supporter of our Second Amendment rights, and won't be a duster in Congress. So, Minnesota, let's work together to send Tom Emmer to Washington and put the career politicians in the penalty box," unquote. To see any of the governor's posts in their entirety, you can visit Sarah Palin's Facebook page, follow her on Twitter at Sarah Palin USA, and visit sarahpalinchannel.com.
It's time for Commonwealth Common Sense with Susan Stimson and Kevin Scholla.
Hello, Susan. How are you?
Kevin, I'm doing very well. Hope you had a good week.
Well, thanks for being here as usual. And today we're asking a very interesting question. Does truth matter? You would think on surface when you hear that, of course, the truth matters. It's very important. It's of utmost importance. But in politics, well, it's up for debate. What do you say?
I think that we're also seeing that in society, that some people will say, what is truth and does truth really exist? But some who might argue that there is no absolute truth only feel that way until it's time to check their bank account, and they want to make sure that all of the money that's supposed to be in there is in there. But a larger question, does truth matter in governing? And does it matter if our leaders tell the truth? And I would say that I think that we care about truth if we go to a pharmacy and the pharmacist fills a prescription. We care if the pharmacist is telling the truth. We care if a pilot's telling the truth, that he's been trained to fly, and we get in an airplane and we trust him, when he takes off to fly us to our destination. And the same is true on our entire system of justice. Our Bill of Rights is based on truth, trial by jury, justice itself. Truth is at the essence of it. And I think of what's happened at the federal level, because we're seeing many, many instances from our leaders where they aren't telling the truth, the trust breaks down, and then the whole governing process breaks down, even down to what happens in our national defense. Mothers and fathers who can't get the truth about how their children may have been killed in combat. Will families continue to trust their government and be willing to serve?
And, some of these guys that we see elected locally and also in D.C., sometimes truth matters a lot the opposite way. In other words, they look at polls instead, or they look at what their handlers, the Karl Roves of the world, tell them to do. So instead of truth, they want to make sure, and a lot of times they skirt the truth or avoid the truth or cloud the truth, or in some cases, the Oval Office, flat out lie. So I think we're seeing not only are those taking truth and putting a premium on it in a positive way. I think some are taking it and just doing whatever they want with it. It's the same way with the Constitution.
I think that we need to start challenging ourselves a little bit more and doing some things sometimes that may feel a little uncomfortable. No one really likes confrontation, but I think that we need to be very aware that it's important for our leaders to lead in truth and to tell the truth, and that we as Americans, we do have standards for our leaders, and we expect them to meet those standards. And I don't think that Americans expect that there's going to be perfection, but I do think the one dynamic that exists right now in our nation that we're seeing is really a wake-up call, maybe even among the millennials, that they're looking around, they're looking for authenticity. They can accept maybe if someone made a mistake as long as they're being honest about it. Or they can accept a governing decision that one has made if the decision is defended and it's being told, in an open and honest way. And I think that we as Americans need to be more bold in how we tell our leaders that we expect them to be open in their governing processes and be transparent and to be honest with us. And that if they're not, that affects the foundation of our government and the way that our system functions, and we need to vote them out of office.
Interesting take on a big, big issue and the big picture. And Susan Stimson, you're the best. That is the truth.
Kevin, thank you. I appreciate it.
Susan Stimson in Virginia. More Commonwealth Common Sense next week. Now our weekly commentary, Steel Resolve. Here's Sarah Steelman.
Thanks, Kevin. Some NFL players are behaving very badly these days. And we have heard some horrific stories of college football players assaulting and in some cases raping young women on campus without any adverse consequences. This is not a coincidence. Young men who get into serious trouble during high school and college, if they are extremely good football players, rarely suffer any consequences for their bad behavior or illegal behavior. Isn't it ironic that at the same time we are hearing these college athlete stories, the California State University system, quote, the recognized, close quote, 23 campus chapters of the InterVarsity Christian Fellowship. Apparently, this decision stems from a December 2011 Chancellor's executive order stating that no campus shall recognize any student organization unless its membership and leadership are open to all currently enrolled students. Obviously, this organization limits its leadership to those who affirm their adherence to Christian doctrine. That's why they have been de-recognized. Not only is this a violation of our First Amendment rights, but it's outrageous that on a college campus, diversity is only accepted if it is non-Christian. And at a time when our country desperately needs organizations that reinforce, support, and teach positive moral behavior to young men and women, isn't it a shame that the California university system is so stupid? And then we wonder why grown men behave badly. This is Sarah Steelman for Mama Grizzly Radio.
Tune in again next week for another segment of Steel Resolve right here on the Palin Update. The Palin Update, including Commonwealth Common Sense and Steel Resolve, is on demand and available for download. So just head to mamagrizzlyradio.com. Pick the show you want to hear, and you can listen anywhere, anytime. Well, that'll just about do it for this edition of the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. Visit mamagrizzlyradio.com for continuing coverage of Governor Palin. Like Mama Grizzly Radio on Facebook and follow along on Twitter at Mama Grizz Radio, at Kevin Scholla, at Susan B. Stimpson, and at Sarah_Steelman. And I'm doing some writing for Breitbart News. Go to Breitbart.com and search Kevin Scholla. I want to thank Sarah Steelman, Susan Stimpson, and everyone here at Mama Grizzly Radio. Thanks to Zach Dasher, and thank you for listening today. Please be sure to join us again next time for another edition of the Palin Update right here on Mama Grizzly Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla. Have a pleasant day.